Good morning and welcome to the February 16th edition of the OBX Wave Report. I am Robert Scribbler, your reporter on all things waves, weather, climate, and beach lifestyle. And for today, we've got some interesting stuff going on. I'm going to try and put it all together for you. It's more of a weather and waves picture, a little bit less of a climate picture, although one of the things that we're going to focus on here is how unseasonably warm it's been in the Outer Banks and how the local forecasts really just don't seem to be quite picking it up. I was on the beach yesterday and I didn't have a temperature monitor. Um, I've looked for some records, but I haven't found this, and this in part is, in all honesty, due to my I don't know if laziness is the right word, but I didn't have the time to dig in and get all of the temperature records for yesterday. But I'd be willing to bet that we had temperatures in the Outer Banks here yesterday in the lower 70s in some locations. I was at Jeanettes Pier yesterday and it felt extraordinarily warm. But what I did do is pull up the information for today. And I am going to show you some contrast between the observations and the model forecasts and what the models think the temperature is now here in the Outer Banks, particularly at Jeanettes Pier. So I've got the global forecast system model that is, I'm going to zoom in on the Outer Banks here. We're going to zoom in kind of close. This is a coarse model. It's not perfect, but it is a very good model. And I'm picking, let's just get a little closer. I'm picking a point right over Jeanette's Pier in this model map on the Outer Banks. So here you have the strand of the US East Coast. This is the Chesapeake Bay. Here is Virginia Beach, and here is the strand of the Outer Banks, and that's Manio, that little dot, and then Jeanette's Pier there. This little gap is Oregon Inlet. This here is Hatteras Island, and this here is Ocracoke Island. So that gives you a bit of a setting. And according to the global forecast system model, we should have this like wedge of cooler air that is over the Outer Banks. And this would make sense. It does make sense, like I believe from a modeling perspective, because the ocean water temperatures here are pretty cold. They're in the range of the upper 40s here in the Virginia Beach area, getting down into the, getting into the upper 40s and lower 50s here at Nag's Head. And then even extending down toward Hatteras, we've got mid 50s all the way down to Buxton. And typically, ocean water temperatures and colder ocean water temperatures and colder sound water temperatures, and temperatures in the sound are about that same temperature, would tend to cool off the air here in the Outer Banks. And that's not happening. I don't know exactly why. It's possible that there's more of an influence in the atmosphere that is helping to amplify the temperatures. But right now, temperature is not 56 degrees. It's in the 60s. And what I need to do is get a temperature monitor either attached to my watch, and I did just get a GoPro. I don't know if GoPro does, I haven't even unboxed it yet. I know GoPro does velocity. I don't know if they do temperature, but I want to get a temperature monitor so I can carry it around with me and read the actual temperature. I do have a temperature monitor in the car, but that's not accurate because my Tesla Model 3, which I call Clean Kit, I know it's cheesy, but it's Clean Kit, like, Knight Rider. Um, it's a black car, and so the surface of the car heats up, and that affects the temperature gauge. So I get some pretty high departures on the side of warm for the car. But here in the Outer Banks, I've had like this bit of, I guess, polarity because the weather forecasts have been undershooting the temperatures, particularly as we get into these warm spells. And then the car is, telling me it's 85, which I know it's not 85. So long story short, I need to get a temperature gauge. But in lieu of that, um, We do have some monitors that we can get into. One of the good ones is Willy Weather that provides local monitors here at Jeanettes Pier, and I've used Willy Weather to provide you guys with some recordings of wind speeds at Jeanettes Pier. We did recently, back in January, have a hurricane force gust at Jeanettes Pier, and Willie really helped me out with that. And right now, Willie is helping me out with the temperature. And right now at Jeanettes Pier, actually about 25 minutes ago at Jeanettes Pier, at 10:50 in the morning, it was 67.8 degrees Fahrenheit. So nearly 70 degrees already at Jeanette's Pier today. And this is counter to the forecast, which had projected a high, I believe, of 56 degrees. So this temperature here at Jeanette's Pier is 11, 12 degrees warmer than the forecast that I was looking at. Let's look at another forecast. I'm going to look at all right, one of the weather apps. Just talk about weather apps here. This will be for Nag's Head, and this is weather bug. It's just a general weather app, but it gets the information from official forecasts. And what's interesting here is you've got what Willy Weather here is indicating as the official forecast. I didn't see an official forecast even at 64 degrees for today. Um, but you can see, I don't know where Woolly Weather is getting its official forecast. I don't know if it's from the National Weather Service, and I don't know what Weather Bug is getting its official forecast, but the Weather Bug official forecast is for 59 degrees for Nag's Head. That's just Nag's Head generally. Jeanette's Pier is in Nag's Head. So we've got two official forecasts, both low. And so if the official forecast is 59, then Jeanette's Pier is nearly 9 degrees warmer than that already, and it's not at the peak heating of the day. We would expect peak heating of the day being around 2 p.m. And so likely to see around 70 degrees here at Jeanette's Pier. And that's what it felt like yesterday when I was on the beach. Felt like at least 70, maybe even a little warmer. I was feeling like completely comfortable in wet bathing suit and swim shirt after I got my wetsuit off. And there was like a southwest breeze. So temperatures at least 70 degrees yesterday. That's what it felt like. But in any case, the weather predictions are, for whatever reason, undershooting the temperatures that we're experiencing in the Outer Banks right now. And these temperatures are well above normal for this time of year, about 15 to 20 degrees above normal, probably. I don't know let's see, do they have base climatology here at Willie? Doesn't look like it. I might be temperature forecast. Okay, so no, they don't have base climatology, but I think average highs here in February probably 49, 50 degrees this time of year. So we're looking at 15 to 20 degrees above normal right now. So unseasonably warm. And that, I said we weren't going to talk climate, or we weren't going to talk climate that much, because I'm going to talk climate a little bit more when I do like an assessment of the climate scientists, what they're chatting about. I don't even know what they're chatting about. I've been surfing and playing Dungeons and Dragons, but yeah, and doing work too, and hanging out with friends. God, there's so many cool people here in the Outer Banks, and people who visit, people who live here. I mean, Kat and I, we've been so fortunate. We've run into all the wonderful people, and I don't know, it just feels kind of magical living here. It's wild. But in any case, climate, yeah. So when you get temperatures departing in the 15 to 20 degree range, that's pretty extraordinary. And so we're in the kind of outlier range, especially as we're getting these consistent warmer than normal days, day after day after day. And we'll see how long this warm spate lasts. It's been this way now for a little while. We get these fronts that come in and tamp it down, and then we get the temperatures coming back up. And I think that's what's going to happen again. We got this big front out to the west. But it is worth noting from a climate standpoint that this is well outside the norm for this time of year. All right. So let's I wanted to do a little discussion about temperature because it's just been so warm here in the Outer Banks when we get these warm spells. Let's get to the National Weather, I'm sorry, this is NOAA, National Oceanic and Atmospheric Administration geocolor composite of the clouds that we see from the satellites over the United States. And right now we got this huge thing. I mean, look at this thing. It's just clouds over Texas, clouds over the Gulf Coast, clouds over Kansas and Colorado and Nebraska and Wyoming and Montana and the Dakotas and Minnesota. And I could just go on and on and on, like the Great Lakes, the Northeast. There's just huge storm system here over stretching like from the Rockies to the Gulf Coast up through the Ohio and Mississippi River valleys and on into the Northeast, at least as far as clouds go. So big old system, and it's kicking off some serious severe weather in the United States west of the Appalachians. Here in the Outer Banks, we're under the gun for Gale. We're under Gale Watches now here in the Outer Banks. And what's going to happen is as this front gets closer to the coastline, it's going to pull up these airs from the south and west, and those winds are really going to start to pick up, and we're going to get near gale force or gale force winds across the Outer Banks from the southwest as we get into Friday. And then as the front whips on by, those winds are going to turn around to the north and northwest, and then we're going to get those strong northerly winds on the backside of the front. Now, I'm not going to be here for that. Unfortunately, I say unfortunately, I'm heading off back up to the DC area this weekend, but I will keep providing these wave reports for you guys as we go. So I will be here in spirit. I will be your spirit wave reporter for the Outer Banks. We're heading back up to Gaithersburg. We got to take care of some things up there, and then we'll be back late on Monday, and I'll have my GoPro here. I'm going to be testing it out, working through the kinks, getting my board mount set up for the Lost Rocket Redux. And I mean, I might even get a little surprise video for you guys, a little test video from the beaches today. So exciting developments here. Okay, looking at the infrared satellite shot, you can really see the colder cloud tops associated with this big morass of clouds. It's the infrared actually understates the spread of the clouds. I mean, we've got partly to mostly cloudy conditions here in the Outer Banks right now, and large portions of the United States seeing like low clouds. But where you see the high clouds here with these cold cloud tops is where you see the severe weather. And you've got severe weather right now across parts of western Kentucky, Tennessee, Mississippi, Alabama, down into Louisiana with like looks like severe thunderstorms firing off. And you've got some weather across Texas and Minnesota, looks like Iowa, Nebraska area. And then there's a big old storm system moving into the West Coast, a little classic storm here. But with the storm system over the central U.S., you got a moisture feed tapping in from the Pacific and from the Gulf of Mexico, as well as the Atlantic, with a high circulating just to the west of Bermuda here, providing that dig across the much warmer than normal Gulf of Mexico, the much warmer than normal Atlantic Ocean, and then across the Pacific. So this thing's got a lot of moisture feeding into it. Interesting little area of squally weather down here in the tropics. I don't think we're going to see anything from that, but it's interesting that that's firing up at this time of year. So those are features notable in the infrared satellite shot here provided by Tropical Tidbits. Go ahead and check out Levi Cohen, our tropical weather expert over here at Tropical Tidbits, and he's also on the Twitter and on the social media and all of that stuff. Okay, so looking at the National Weather Service radar, we've got two main features with this storm. One is some snowy weather here across the western Great Lakes and into Minnesota, parts of Michigan, Wisconsin, Nebraska, Missouri, all that jazz. And then toward the east, we've got severe weather here in Tennessee and Kentucky and parts of Louisiana. All the little yellow boxes you see in this radar picture, I've got the alerts activated for the National Weather Service radar picture here. All the yellow boxes you see are, looks like, I think, thunderstorm warnings and tornado watches. And let's just pick one location here. Yeah, tornado watch. Tornado watch. Okay, it's all tornado watches. So there's a risk of supercell tornadic thunderstorms developing, looks like along a line here. And it's sweeping on through parts of Arkansas, Louisiana, Tennessee, Mississippi, starting to get into Alabama a little bit, although no alerts yet in Alabama. So everybody from Kentucky on south to Louisiana, particularly in the eastern side, and then getting into Alabama and possibly into like Georgia later into the day, needs to pay attention to your local weather advisories. We could have a spate of tornadoes here, so keep a weather eye to the sky as that much warmer than normal water over the Atlantic and the Gulf help to fuel some serious severe thunderstorms, potentially serious severe thunderstorms today. So that's, to me, as far as the weather picture goes for the United States, this is kind of the severe weather hotspot. We'll keep an eye on it. Again, here in the Outer Banks, we're under gale watches, and I'll be providing you with a global forecast, just global GFS, global forecast system model summary of the weather that's expected for the Outer Banks and the lower 48 later. But right now in the Outer Banks, we're under gale watches, and this in association with this front that is approaching from the west, and these winds are going to kick up more and more from the southwest throughout the course of the day into the night, and likely getting to near gale force or gale force tomorrow. All right. Looking at the marine forecast, and I'm talking about the marine waters out here off the northeast. I decided to just keep an eye on this because that's where most of the waves come from, at least for the east-facing beaches of the Outer Banks. As we get into tropical weather season, we're going to kind of look at a broader swath of ocean. But here is like a big hotspot for swell generation. So looking out off the U.S. northeast coast, and there are gale warnings up as the frontal system approaches, and we're expected to see some winds start to whip up from the south over that area as well, and then turn around to the north and generate more of a swell. We'll talk more about the swell later. Okay, looking at severe weather and heavy rainfall. The hotspot for heavy rainfall and likely powerful storms is right here, just west of the Appalachians into West Virginia, Kentucky, Tennessee, northern Alabama, parts of extreme northern Georgia, and parts of extreme western Virginia and North Carolina. And for a 7-day rainfall forecast, this is starting to get into the extreme range, likely to have severe weather in this swath stretching from, looks like Lake Erie all the way down kind of along a diagonal through to the Gulf Coast here. So worth watching. Also worth watching out here off of the Mid-Atlantic and the U.S. Northeast coast, a possible formation for nor'easters. This indicator provided, of course, by the quantitative prediction forecast by NOAA, but I know that when we see like these heavy rains out there, that's likely, going to be a nor'easter type cyclonic storm or a frontal storm. So we'll see how that works out. And then looking west, we're expected to see pretty heavy precipitation for the U.S. Northwest and the Pacific Northwest region and into the Sierra Nevadas. This is, pretty typical for this time of year to have some strong storms here, but it's starting to get into the, looks like above normal range. I could be wrong. We'll look at the monitors, but this looks like above normal. It's also worth noting that California, you draw a line from Northern California south, mostly dry with the exception of the mountain regions. It's been pretty dry recently for California. We've gone from this big swing of extreme moisture back to dry, is what it seems like to me. So we'll have to, dig into the details on that, see what's going on. I don't know if that's like on my radar to do a focus piece on, but I'll keep looking at it, and if things get back to crazy dry for California, we'll talk about it. Although right now it's a little bit of an indicator, something to watch. And it does look like we're going to get some heavy precipitation across the Rockies, parts of the Rockies, particularly if you draw a line north of New Mexico, Arizona, and then just go diagonally northwestward. Looks like some possible pretty heavy snows along the higher elevations. So something to keep an eye on. All right, so let's get down to the coastline, and we're going to go to Jeanettes Pier. The wave monitors that I look at are wrong on temperature, so I'm going to put a little asterisk beside the temperatures that I'm getting, both from the wave monitors and from the weather monitors, because I did go to Willy Weather and I did get an actual fix on the temperature at Jeanettes Pier, and it's 68 degrees Fahrenheit down there right now. So that's what we're going to call the air temperature as opposed to what the wave and weather monitors are saying. But right now, the waves at Jeanettes Pier are 1 to 2 feet. The primary swell is coming in at 9 seconds. Still coming out of the east, but we're getting more of a southwest wind flow, so the swell is going to change as we move through the day today. The secondary swell coming in at 8 seconds. Winds are out of the southwest at 12 miles per hour. That's offshore. That's going to tend to pick up throughout the day. Air temperatures are 67, 68 degrees right now, not 56 or whatever it was that the weather monitors were telling me. Ocean water temperatures are 49 degrees or 49 to 50 degrees, so very cold water temperatures, although the air temperatures do mitigate. I was out there yesterday in a 32 millimeter wetsuit, hood, booties, gloves. I was perfectly fine. I had no issues. Weather forecast today, clouds and sun, wind picking up from the southwest, expected high in the upper 60s, I would say possibly 70, maybe even a little warmer. All right, so the wave story for the east facing beaches is pretty much the same. It's 1 to 2 feet or 0 to 2 feet for most of the east facing beaches, and that's true if you get on up to Kill Devil Hills and Kitty Hawk, and true if you go down down to S turns, down to Rodanth, 1 to 2 foot waves, down to Salvo, 1 to 2 foot waves, Avon, 1 to 2 foot waves. And the wave period is about the same in the 8 to 9 second range. So pretty much the same waves all up and down the east facing beaches. I mean, there's going to be some variance, but 0 to 2, 1 to 2 foot waves. Rideable, but not big, nothing too crazy to write home about. Maybe if you're getting back into surf shape like me, this is some good waves to just get out there and practice your paddle, your pop-ups, your reading of the waves, without getting into something that's too crazy or intense. All right, so but I'm going to go down to Buxton, and Buxton tends to be one of the big waves, the big wave spot generally for the United States. I'm sorry, not the United States. Generally for the Outer Banks. I don't know. I must have the United States on my brain, but in any case, yeah, Buxton is not the king of big waves today, for the Outer Banks, but it is the king of big waves for the Outer Banks generally. Nonetheless, waves are 2 to 3 foot at Buxton. Primary swell coming in at 9 seconds, secondary swell coming in at 8 seconds, so same period. Winds 10 miles per hour out of the southwest, which is an offshore flow. Air temperature, the reading I'm getting is 63. I bet it's warmer. I bet it's closer to 70 down there at Buxton. Ocean water temperature 55 degrees Fahrenheit. That's I don't know, probably the case. Maybe I need to get an ocean water temperature monitor gauge too. Who knows? In any case, weather conditions right now are mostly cloudy. Expected high, I would say in the upper 60s to lower 70s, based on what I'm experiencing here in Manio, what I experienced yesterday at Jeanettes Pier. Overall, good rideable waves there at Buxton. You got that wind out of the southwest, which is going to hollow those waves out, though. As that wind kicks up, might get a little choppy. You're going to start to get a different wraparound swell over the course of the day as those winds pick up. But right now, good conditions and likely to remain that way for at least the next few hours. And then we're going to start to get the change as we get those heavier winds coming in from the southwest. Now, for the last observation that I'm going to get for you guys, we're going to go down to Billy Mitchell Airport, the home of naval aviation for real freedom and democracy. And right now, the waves at Billy Mitchell. So I was just looking at the swell. Primary swell is coming in at 6 seconds out of the south and west. And that one's 3.5 feet. So that primary swell is 3 to 4 feet there at Billy Mitchell. Coming in out of the southwest, that's starting to get that influence ahead of the front with those stronger winds running over the ocean coming in from the southwest. Now, the winds at the surface right now at Billy Mitchell are not that strong, just 10 miles per hour southwest onshore flow. But those winds over water are starting to kick up a little bit, which is driving that swell coming in from the southwest. Air temperatures, it says 62 degrees. I bet it's warmer. I bet it's like 68, 69 down there. Ocean water temperatures, 56 degrees. Weather conditions, mostly cloudy. And I'm going to say the expected high today. I'm just going to go out on a limb and say likely expected high today, in my opinion, upper 60s, possibly lower 70s, given what we experienced yesterday and given the actual readings that we're getting over at Jeanettes Pier. It's probably warmer down there at Billy Mitchell than it is at Jeanettes Pier, given those warmer ocean water conditions and just generally closer to the Gulf Stream, which is also generally warmer. All right, so let's get into our 8 to 14 day precipitation and temperature outlook. Things are changing a little bit in this monitor. It is worth noting that the focus for colder air is moving up to the north and west specifically, north generally and north and west specifically, with much colder than normal conditions expected for Washington and the Seattle region. And we're getting storms also coming in out of the Pacific Ocean in that region. So it's stormy, colder generally there. Worth noting that much warmer than normal conditions are expected over Florida and parts of Georgia and Alabama, southeast, South Carolina. And then here in the Outer Banks, we're expected to see warmer than normal conditions, but the center of heat looks like it's starting to focus down over Florida in the 8 to 14 day temperature outlook. We've been having this dipole. Dipole is more oriented northwest to southeast rather than east to west, so it seems a little bit less extreme. When you get the warring air masses between hot and cold being east to west, tends to be more extreme as far as severe weather goes. But nonetheless, we've got a bit of a dipole here, so we'll have to keep a weather eye to things. And it is worth noting that in the 8 to 14 day outlook, we do start to see a potential for severe weather here in California again. I told you how it's been kind of dry and we've gone from extreme precipitation in California, like this hard switch from extreme precipitation to pretty dry conditions. And now looks like in the 8 to 14 day precipitation outlook, we might be doing a hard switch back, and we'll see. But this is definitely something to keep a weather eye on. Generally more stormy now across the northern tier of the United States, as well with drier conditions south in association with those warmer temperatures. Seems to me like there's going to be big old high pressure influence digging up heat from the south, pushing the weather systems off to the north and west here. And that's what it appears to be indicating here in the Climate Prediction Center by NOAA outlook here as I am doing the meta-analysis. Okay, so let's look at the severe weather potential, and I'm gonna back up here. Here we go. And let's refresh this. Okay, so today's outlook, the convective outlook for today is for an enhanced risk of severe thunderstorms ranging from some part, just kind of a little sliver of Louisiana up through Mississippi and Alabama into Tennessee. And Generally higher risk, slightly higher risk of severe storms, you know, in a larger blob around the central blob of enhanced severe weather risk. Uh, my headset cut off, so perfect time for a coffee break. Okay, in any case, we've got this enhanced risk of severe weather over parts of Tennessee, Alabama, Mississippi, extreme eastern Louisiana, and right now tornado watch is in effect. Storms are expected to fire. Things could get kind of gnarly. Please pay attention to your emergency weather folk and seek shelter. Do the things to keep yourself safe if in the event that severe weather does threaten. But yeah, there's a lot of well, there's some potential for severe weather ahead of this front and lots of tornado watches up right now. And now, so let's get into the forecast models. Let's make sure we've got this refreshed. And forecast models here provided by Tropical Tidbits based on the Global Forecast System summary. And right now we can see that low pressure system with the front tapping into Gulf moisture, severe weather firing up across Tennessee, Kentucky, Mississippi, Alabama, parts of the Gulf Coast. I'm just going to advance this model here, and we see those storms firing up. And I don't know, you know what? I'm tempted. Let's go ahead and look at a mesoscale model. Yeah. Okay, so let's look at the NAM. Nah, do we want a 32 kilometer? Maybe we should. Let's get a little bit tighter here. All right, so this is what is called a mesoscale model. It's mainly focused on thunderstorms, but since we have a severe weather risk, um, let's look at a more granular mesoscale model for the next day or so. So this storm system with a frontal boundary is expected to fire up some severe thunderstorms on a line stringing down to the Gulf of Mexico, across Louisiana, parts of Alabama, Kentucky, and Tennessee. And this line of thunderstorms is expected to head eastward through Kentucky and Tennessee, and Mississippi, and start to string on into Alabama as we get early into the day on Friday. And here we go with some more thunderstorms firing up and starting to head on into Georgia and then the US East Coast region. So Georgia, South Carolina, North Carolina, Virginia, and on up toward Pennsylvania by Friday as the front sweeps on through. And thunderstorms still appearing to fire up as they get on into the Outer Banks region. So I don't know, just looking at this mesoscale model, I kind of actually want to get into a higher granularity. So let's go back and run this again. Okay, so now we can see the severe cells along this line really popping in the 3 kilometer NAM model. And that's, I think, what the National Weather Service is most concerned about. Looks like straight line, very long line of thunderstorms, severe thunderstorms running in through Mississippi and Tennessee, particularly today, and then getting into Alabama and Georgia into Friday. And wow, look at that just rash of, looks more, yeah, thunderstorms as well into the day on Friday. And then as the system gets close to the Outer Banks, doesn't look too crazy. Oh, well, I don't know. It looks like we might get a line of thunderstorms sweeping through. It might be an interesting line of thunderstorms sweeping in through by 10 o'clock on Friday. So it could get a little stormy here in the Outer Banks as the front sweeps on through. And that's your mesoscale model. Mesoscales are fun. Especially, I know there's tornado warnings out here, but yeah, okay. So please be safe, be careful. Mesoscale models can be fun, but the thunderstorms that fire up as a result are serious. And so please take caution and precaution if severe weather does threaten. Um, And this particular series of thunderstorms look like they could produce some severe weather according to what the National Weather Service is saying. As we get closer to the Outer Banks with the frontal system, does look like we could get some thunderstorms, but it doesn't look generally, according to the alerts, like we're under the gun, at least yet, for anything crazy as far as supercells or tornadoes or extreme straight line wind events. But we'll have to keep abreast. This front does look relatively strong. Okay, so let's get down to the waves. And right now, let's go ahead and make sure we are at the right location on the model as far as time goes. All right, so right now swells are still coming in from the east for most of the east-facing Outer Banks beaches. The offshore swell in the range of about 3 feet. Pretty decent straight swell coming in. Waves might be better than the wave forecasters seem to indicate. We'll see. We'll head on down and see how things are. And then as we get into the day tomorrow, we get that strong southwesterly wind, southwesterly gale possible, with waves popping up from the south in the range of 8 to 9 feet for the south-facing beaches in the near offshore environment, and then looks like 5 to 7 feet in the near offshore environment for the east-facing beaches. This is for Friday, and then as we get into the day on Saturday, the winds turn around to the north and northwest, and so we get the swell also coming in from the north and northwest. 6 to 7 foot swell from the north and northwest behind the front. So the east-facing beaches will be experiencing higher surf on the day for the day on Saturday, and then as we get into Sunday, waves calm down with a swell coming in from the east just in the range of 2 to 3 feet. Looks like a smaller swell. We'll see how things line up if the swell tamps down this much or if there's more of a remnant swell. But nonetheless, looks like smaller waves for the day on Sunday. And then as we get into Monday, more of a southerly swell in the range of, looks like 2 to 4 feet in the near offshore environment for most of the Outer Banks. And then, oops, do we get to Tuesday? I guess we do not get to Tuesday. It's like I want to get to Tuesday because that's probably the next day that I'm going to be able to surf after after I do my trip up to the DC area. All right, so that's our wave report for today. Thank you for joining me. I think we had like a relatively long session because I got into lots of details on weather and stuff. But thank you for joining me again. I'm going to do a summary of what the climate scientists are talking about. It's Thursday, and I haven't done it this week. And then I'm going to get down to the beaches and we're going to see if we can get our GoPro up and running. I don't know. Maybe I'll have time to do an unboxing for the GoPro and talk a little bit about it. I don't know how to use a GoPro yet. Hopefully it's pretty straightforward because I'm a straightforward kind of guy. Hopefully it's not too crazy technical. Yeah, I just want to be able to turn it on, set the stabilizer, film shit, not lose it. Excuse my language. In any case, thank you for joining me for this session of the OBX Wave Report. And as I always do, I'm just going to ask you guys again to please do everything you can to help speed the clean energy transition, to defend our coastlines, because the primary driver of climate crisis impacts to coastlines being sea level rise and more severe storms is coming from the burning of fossil fuels. And I'm saying this not to shame anybody. There's no blame, no shame, not to individuals. I myself know where the problem's coming from. It's not from you guys. It's not from you as a person or any of you. It's from an industry that has cynically decided to stand against history and justice and morality, and decided to profit from harm. It's made a kind of a cynical choice. And this is, story of humanity throughout history. Whenever there is need for change, there are always those that stand against it. And so it's not you that I'm talking about. But when I ask you, when I say, please do everything you can, what I really mean to say is, don't get trapped by the cynicism. Don't get trapped by just the stories that get told about how certain things are possible and certain things are not possible, and the people who are saying that they're not possible, that they're possible, things like clean energy are just not practical, or they're just not real, or they just don't understand, that kind of stuff. Or it's inevitable. Don't fall into the trap of inevitability. Um, Realize you have power to help make things better for you and for your buds, for the people you care about, all of them. And it's about empowerment. That's the way I see clean energy. It's like it's empowerment for individuals. It's real freedom from small-minded cynics who profit from harm. It's about a happy way to live with your fellow human beings and nature. Um, so that's what I mean, when I say do everything you can. And I'm asking as your friend, not as like, someone that like sees people, as a part, because I'm with you. I'm here with you. We're all together in this. So yeah, so please do everything you can to help speed the clean energy transition and defend our beautiful coastlines from the impacts of climate change driven by fossil fuel burning. Because I know you can. I can see that in you. And it's not about me. So thank you for joining me again. Take care, guys. And have fun on those waves out there. Just tear it up.